There we go.
It's gone.
Yes, thank you all. We're here. We're going to be looking at Janette's live presentation on Apophis. She's put a beautiful presentation together for us. And I actually noticed last night there's a clock countdown. Evidently, it's being reported it's coming from NASA originally. So it's some sort of a world cam. We'll have that in the definition or the description below later. But Janette's going to be talking to us about Apophis. She's already done a presentation on Apophis several months ago, and that you can see on our Rumble channel, Hebrew Code Searching, or also at A Light Unto the Gentiles. It'll be one of those two, if not both. So anyway, we're going to go with Janette's further presentation on Apophis. Janette, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Great.
Just move that up. Okay, right, I'm Janette. Welcome everybody. It's good to have you join us. This is the second table, as Darla has said, that I have done on this subject. It's exactly the same matrix that I worked the last time, which means from Amos 7:10 to Nehemiah or Nehemiah, depending on where you're from and how you pronounce his name, 8:9, with the same skip of 13615. But in this table, I found a whole lot of very new and positive terms, which I'm quite excited to share with you all. Let's just move this bar up. Too far. Okay, so like I say, Apophis. On the internet, it tells us quite a bit about Apophis, and NASA have actually put out quite a lot too. So on the 13th of April 2029, which will happen to be a Friday for those of you that are suspicious, an asteroid more than 100 feet wide will pass by Earth, closer than the moon. So it's going to be sort of between us and the moon, and will easily be observed with the naked eye. So this is going to be the approximate size of this thing. And when you see it compared to the Empire State Building, then it sort of hits you at how large this is actually going to be. So this is one of the images that I got from Google that shows a map of the region that people will be able to see this with the naked eye. So they have a project, Apophis, MIT, called the SET mission. So again, an Egyptian name. Here it says the asteroid Apophis is named after the Egyptian deity of chaos and evil, who was thwarted by the god Set, riding a solar boat. Like Set, mission Set will ride upon solar electric propulsion to meet Apophis, at which time the spacecraft will characterize the asteroid inside and out, before and after the Earth flyby. That's interesting. It's going to allow for a better understanding of not only how asteroids are constructed, but how tidal stresses affect them. So I don't know what they're expecting. So again, as I say, there's another Egyptian deity. So Apophis is the Egyptian symbol of chaos and forces of darkness. Upon a bit more study, is also known as APEP, and this is just some of the words that are associated with this APOP, other names: Apophis, Apepi, Apep, the evil lizard, serpent from the Nile, Lord of Chaos, evil dragon, snake, lizard, serpent, cobra. So he's not good. So let's have a look and see what our Bible actually says, because we're likening this to Wormwood. So in Revelation 8:7, it says, "And the first messenger sounded, and there came to be hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." And Revelation 8:8-9, the second messenger sounded, and what looked like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So this one is going to hit the sea. So now this one, the third angel's message, the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from the heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. Okay, so this is the first half. I've had to split it up into two halves because I had quite a lot of terms and I couldn't put it all together without lots of confusion. So this here is the access term, the word Apophis, which I have just here. And as you can see, where it's got the Samek, the S sound, here is shared, so that when you see, when I've coloured it in differently, you will see that it's shared. Okay, so first of all, let's not forget who's in control of all this, that who's going to be releasing these angels, who has the scroll and is breaking the seals, and the angels are going to be released. It is all in his timing. So as usual, what I say is don't be scared, be prepared. And this is all about preparation. So we've got Yahuwah, Yahushua, or Yeshua there. And again, a palindrome of Yahuwah. This one actually was a palindrome, but it went off of the chart there. So I didn't believe in the rapture that people say is going to be pre-tribulation, because Matthew 24:29 says, after the tribulation of those days, then the sun will be darkened and the moon won't give its light, and we shall see the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds. And so I was absolutely amazed and loved to share with my sisters and brothers that this word here that I've ringed in the gold actually means spared, delivered, rescue, taken away. And it has a Strong's number. So do we get taken away before Apophis? Or is it part of when the three angels come? I don't know. So we can have a nice talk about that afterwards. We've got the full spelling here of remnant, Shari, and there's also a smaller version on the other side of the table. Here in the pink, we have his people. In the blue, we've got the waters, and here in the green we've got fountain, fountain of waters. And as it said, this particular wormwood will hit the waters, not the sea, but the rivers and the waters. And here in this blue, we've got cast out. And here in this brighter green, we've got the seven. And the seven and fountain are sharing the ayin. Okay, here we actually have 2029, the year that this is going to happen. This here was interesting. I hope you can understand it from how I've done it here. We've got Yahuwah Zavuot in the plain text, but the hay here in the pink has got and distorts, so that the hay in Yahuwah is the hay for Yahuwah Zavuot. It's the hay for distorts. Wormwood, this hay here is also sharing Yahuwah, and judgment, the Wa. And here, which was the access term for, I think, my last presentation, is initialization reset here in this purple. We've got NASA. We've got his throne. So his throne and star are sharing this calf. So that is quite interesting too. So over to the other side table, if I just move this over here. Now here in the diagonal, we've actually got two words. So we've got John, Johann, with the Yod, Wa, Hey, and the Noon, and then we've got will save, ringed with the black, but the actual writing is gold. And riding above it, it's got they shall return, bring home again. Where is that? No, sorry, it's this one. It's lifted. This is they shall return home again. This is lifted here, and it also shares lifted. Shares the Wa with a revealer, which is here in this green. So that's interesting that we've got John will save and lifted. What lifted? The revelation gave us the revelation that Yahushua gave to him that he actually saw. So these are all very closely linked together. We've got in my name here, and then the third runs across. So it was the third angel and the third of the waters. And we've got angel. We've got jackal, serpent, sea serpent here in the dark. Going back to John again, we've got Greek comes across here with the circles, and islands is here in these brown circles. We've got here her seed, which reminds me of the dragon was wroth with her seed and went to make war. Was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed and those who keep the commandments of Yahuwah and have the testimony of Yahushua. Here in the pink, we've got the prophet. There's Wa Yod Kuth Mem, and it shall be established, is on the top of in the heavens. It shall be established in the heavens. Look at that, with them on top of each other. Here's the shorter version of the remnant. And here in this green is recompense, reward, render. Did anybody want to say anything before I leave the matrix?
I think you've done a lovely job. And there's some great sort of overlaying there, isn't there?
Yes, It was a bit complicated.
Yeah, no,
Can you all, sorry, can you all see it? Do I need to zoom in to any part of it or anything?
Jen, can you point out in appointed time again? I missed that.
It's here in the vertical.
In the vertical, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts with the bets.
Uh-huh. The beautiful table.
I love how we've got Greek and islands and John and a revealer.
Yeah.
Lifting. And I absolutely, you know, what do we make of this then?
yeah,
Well,
that's your gold nugget, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got
golden
what,
nugget.
6-7 years.
well, I sure hope it's true. I know there's other prophetic YouTubes I've seen and that kind of are tracking with the same idea, the same year, the same idea.
I mean, I hope it's true, because I didn't believe that, you know, that it would come before. But if it does, then we haven't got long at all, you know, and we don't need to worry about any of this because, as I say, it's all in Yahushua's hands as to when these seals are broken, when the angels come. And he says he'll protect us, so...
Yeah, I mean, even if the Apophis doesn't directly hit the earth, which I've heard it's going to fly over the Pacific or Atlantic, I can't remember. But it seems like the magnetic pull from such a big asteroid would affect the planet anyway. You know, just the coming into the disturbance in our atmosphere would affect the planet anyway. It could hit too, but it could also not hit, but it could still cause destruction if it didn't hit.
Yes.
Well, I think it's
Indeed.
so interesting that they called it Apophis, which is supposed to be the Egyptian deity of chaos and darkness.
Yep.
And also they're calling it like a cosmic stone of destruction. That's what they're dubbing it as. So what are we left to think about with what they've named it?
Yeah. I mean,
And
lot of
Wormwood means Artemis too, doesn't it?
I always think about Wormwood being in line with the rebellion that it speaks of in Deuteronomy 29. That's where it's first mentioned. It deals with the rebellion of man.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that made me think of, being as we got John, Greek islands, and a revealer, that we're talking here about Revelation is actually in that code table. So if I just point out, and it's seed of her too, as I mentioned earlier, Revelation 12:17, and the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and possessing the witness of Yahushua, the Messiah. I mean, that was in that table. And this is all of Revelation 8. As it says, when he opened the seventh seal, there came to be silence in the heavens for about half an hour. And I saw the 7 messengers who stand before Elohim, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another messenger came and stood at the altar, holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the set apart ones, the remnant, upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the set apart ones went up before Elohim from the hand of the messenger. And the messenger took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it to the earth. And there were noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 messengers who held the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And the first messenger sounded, and there came to be hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. So the earth is not totally being destroyed. It's a third. It'll be bad, but it's not all of it. And the second messenger sounded, and what looked like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. And a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And the third messenger sounded, and a great star fell from heaven. And stars are also likened to angels as well, aren't they? Burning like a torch, burning like a torch. It looks like a light as it's coming down. And it fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood. And many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. So that sounds like the most devastating so far. And the fourth messenger sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. Does that mean that some body is going to get in between and block out a third of everything? And a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. So that to me sounds like something is blocking a third of both things. And I looked and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, crying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to those dwelling upon the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the 3 messengers who are about to sound. So there we are.
Interesting in, let's see, verse 12, the 4th messenger sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them was darkened. That just made me think about the original third of the angels fell. So, you know, what that's got to be in reference, there's got to be an association with that. Can you go back to the slide? I think it was the original slide that had a lot of information on it about Apophis.
Oh yeah.
And the Greek. I'll tell you when to stop.
That one?
Let me see. Can you no, it wasn't that. I think it was the one you were just on. Go back. And can you okay, the second sentence. This is a once in 1,000-year event in which nature is providing a direct. This is a once in 1,000-year event. So how do they know that? So this sounds like a pretty catastrophic event. And, we're hearing things about a day is 1,000. We know that's truth in Scripture. A day is to the Father as 1,000 years. So just interesting that it's once in 1,000 year event. If in fact this is the kickoff of the final, the seventh day, so to speak, the Shabbat, the return. So if we're kicking that off here, well, it wouldn't be the kickoff, would it be in 2029? Well, it could be, but yeah, that 1,000 year just made me, could be. It just made me think of that's some kind of cycle. And how do they know that?
Yeah.
How do they know that? And is it a cataclysmic event? Is it a what do they call it? Wipeout. They call it something, total catastrophic wipeout. Is it that? Is that what's knocked us off of our access? The earth before? Once in 1,000 years. Well, how many times has it passed? How many times do we know? How many times this has happened?
Previously.
It's happened, obviously, if they can they're saying 1,000 years. So, but how many 1,000 years? Is it 3 times before or 4 times before? I mean, how do we know this? It's in a cycle. It looks like it's in a predictable cycle. This Egyptian god reference of chaos and evil. Why do the powers that be do this? Why did they name why is it so in your face? Naming these, missions by our space programs. Why do they name them after God, little g gods? What are they obviously trying to tell us? They call it Set, like Seti, the god, Seti. I don't know. It's just so in your face. It's hard to believe it that they would name it that.
Yeah, and how come we haven't heard of it before? Ever coming past us before?
Yeah, I mean, where are the records of this? We have the Colburn Bible. That's the only thing I know. I mean, where are they getting this? How do they know that it comes around every 1,000 years? It's an event in nature. I don't know. I don't know how do they measure that? How do they know that?
Well, everything is nature and climate change. It won't be Yahuwah shaking his fist and saying, right, enough is enough. As far as they're concerned, they're not going to let us know that the Bible could possibly be true. But when you read it and you see what's coming and you see where we are now with all the earthquakes and the volcanoes and everything that's happening around the planet, and yet they want to blame it on climate change and on our doing. And really, we know that these things are coming about because we turned away from Yahuwah. Right.
And then the Egyptian god of chaos and evil who was thwarted by the god Set riding a solar boat. The solar boat, the boat thing, that's the Book of the Dead. That's their, they're preparing for death as soon as they're born. Those Egyptians, how they have that boat thing that you're riding along and you have to have a queen, that whole story. So just interesting. So much Egyptian.
Yes.
Is it mythology? I was going to say mythology. Is it mighty men of old? I mean, is it?
Well, yeah, because they're sort of either little g deities or they're Nephilim, where they're part animal and part human.
Right.
And they're shown, when you see the hieroglyphs, they're actually shown as being twice the size of a man because they're sitting on their throne and the man is standing in front of them, and yet they're the same height. So when that deity stands up from the throne, he's going to be twice the size of the man. But this is who they worship, all of these builders, shall we say. Oh, don't know if you hear the thunder. All of the, how shall I say it without causing
Yeah,
mayhem? You know who I mean.
right.
What has been will be again and is
Right.
being, you know, their deities are not our creator. You know, they don't follow our Yahuwah and Yahushua. They've got their own agenda.
It would be interesting
Sorry,
under
Terry.
that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I just want to say, and then you talk. It also reminds me of the Vatican with their telescope, and they've called that particular part of the telescope that's very powerful, Lucifer. You know, why? Why do they do this? Don't know. Well, we do know, but
Yeah.
all yours.
I'm just going to say it's interesting under this mission objective 3. I wonder what this looks kind of Russian tracking. It's like a Russian sort of name. Yeah.
Yarkovsky effect.
So by
somebody
following Apophis for multiple orbits and measuring the thermal emissions and orbital characteristics, the components of that Zoroastrian effect can be decoded, improving our ability to track potentially hazardous. Multiple orbits. So is it going to go around multiple times before it hits, or before it?
Well, at first,
the orbit?
The chat was that it was going to hit in 2029, and then people started to research it and start panicking. So NASA said, no, it's not going to hit. It's going to come around again in 2036. And then it was going to come around again in 2040 something. But to me, that doesn't make sense. How can it just appear when it hasn't, as far as we know, for a long time, shall we say, that they haven't said anything about it. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to come about every 10 years or so.
You know, they can't even get the weather right these days. So, I mean, can't even get my local forecast right for the day, one day. So, my takeaway on this is we don't know what's going to happen,
No, we don't. It's only in retrospect. We'll have to see if the other two angels have sounded their trumpet, and if we get the hail mixed with fire and blood, and the something falling into the ocean, which kills a third of the ocean and all the ships and things. They come first, unless these things can happen all at once, I suppose. Bang, one angel, a couple of hours later, bang, the next angel. We have no idea how it's going to play out. But when we see these things happen, we know that it's all in Yahuwah's hands.
Right. And he says, look up, when you see these things happening, I think it's when you see these things, is it start to happen, or when you see these things happening, it's not like the end, but when you start to see some of the things he's told us to watch for, to look up, because your redemption draws nigh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not to be fearful, but aware.
Yep.
Yeah, that absolutely talks about a rescue.
Yes. Yes, well, this absolutely talks about a rescue.
That's a whole big subject, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
that's like loaded subject as far as rapture theory. I mean,
We had a good chat about that in class, didn't we? This rescue taken away.
What was
And
the
then of
significance of the root word Natsal again? Because that was
yeah, what does nasal, is that's the root, is that the root?
That's the root word, yes.
I see, yeah.
I've got
Well,
the book open if you want me to go look it up again.
sorry?
yeah. Well, Bonnie,
I've got the client open. Natsal, to strip, tear away, deliver. Related to Syriac, Noon, Sadi, Lamed, he let drop cord with an aleph suffix, it's pouring, dripping. In the Arabic, it's Natsala. Ethiopic, it's Tanatsla, fell out, fell off. NIPH dot, I don't know what that means. So Noon Zadi Lamed, he tore himself away, delivered himself, escaped. That was it. It means escape. So the root word there is escaped.
but there was something about falling off as well, right?
Yeah.
Bonnie?
Yeah. He snatched away, took away, tore away. He rescued, delivered, saved. Was snatched, was plucked, was rescued, delivered, was saved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm reading from page 424 in the Red Dictionary. It's also decayed matter. Noon Zadi Lamed.
Ah, that's interesting. Decayed
Yeah.
matter, bitter.
Yeah.
And we know it's a judgment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in here.
Ooh.
Judgment. Coming off of the war in Yahuwah. Judgment.
So where's the word wormwood in this? Is it the blue next to the pink coming down from the hay? And yeah. I just was fascinated with the link between the term wormwood and Apophis, but just looking up the Hebrew word for wormwood and having a look there. If you're half interested, I can show you.
Yeah, sure.
It's
But
lovely.
also we had this bring home again as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's so neat.
We're so waiting for that to happen, aren't we? But there's so much work to do before that because the Father doesn't want any to perish.
Indeed. Right, let me come out of here. Stop my screen share.
I have a question for y'all. When you see Yahuwah Zavaot, I just get chills. I'm like at attention when you see that. You know, can you go into that a little bit, Darla, for me? I'm like, he's king of the armies of everything. Your mic is muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Bonnie, you can go ahead and share your screen, by the way, if you've got a scripture you're bringing up or definitions.
Yeah, in a minute. What Terry's question sounds interesting.
Yeah. I just I'm noticing my camera's kind of glitchy, so I was just if that's distracting, Bonnie, feel free to throw something up. So Yahuwah Zabaoth, Eric Bissell talks about Yahuwah Zabaoth, the Zabaoth, that's like a covering. It is a protection. It's the Zab is it's been a while since I've looked at these words, but just off of my memory, which is challenging, but the Zab is like a tortoise shell. It's like what's under that's the covering over the turtle that lives inside, right? Or the tortoise. So it's like a covering. It's also a litter, which is that thing in the like the Ten Commandments where they carry the Egyptian mother of Moses in this litter. It's that box things that's carried by men and somebody sits inside, sort of a antiquated or a pre-example of a stagecoach, right? In stagecoach, you've got wheels, but in the litter, it's carried on the shoulders, but something of preciousness is carried inside. It's covered, it's protected. The host, Yahuwah can call anything to be his host. Anything can serve him. He could send out a swarm of fleas, flies, plagues, frogs. These things these are part of his armies that he can call to attention. He can raise up an army out of stones. Anything can be used as his host. The walls, I think about this a lot, that he can call witness. He can call armies out of anything. Your desk, anything on your desk can be, here's some, some lip balm, right? Yahuwah could ask this lip balm for what was she doing? What was she watching on that screen, right? It's sitting right here and knows what I'm watching. We think it's inanimate. We think it, but something there's honey in here. There's something natural in here. We as man, we can't just make stuff out of nothing. We have to make it out of something that Yahuwah has made. So he can call anything as his host. And he is absolutely all powerful. Everything serves him. So that's my answer. Just off the top of my cuff.
It's kind of scary when you think about it. What have you done in your life? You've got a witness.
Yeah,
witnesses
exactly.
everywhere. Yeah.
Witnesses everywhere. And he says we'll be held accountable for what we do, what we say.
We say, yeah.
Yeah,
I've really been
every idol.
I've really been praying a
idol
lot about my words lately, about the things I've said. It's really bothering me.
Well, and we have a merciful Father who, again, we talked about that word, I think, in our Shabbat study this past week, that Hebrew word for mercy, which is a covenant word. And the Father is merciful. That means when people are in covenant with him, he is forgiving. He is embracing of us. And like the prodigal son's father who went out to meet him, but he was on his way back to the Father. The Father didn't go find him in the pig pen and say, had enough? Ready to come home yet? No, he kind of came to his own conclusions. I'm going back to my Father's house where I could serve as a servant, and I will be in much better shape than I am here. So
Yeah.
Repentance, returning to the Father. Janette had that in her table as well. Janette, can you bring your table up a second? I wanted to just make a point with your table because just in case we've been around your tables enough, we kind of inherently pick it up, but just to see your table and to show where you had the Yahuwah of host, Yahuwah Zabaoth, and then you had the three terms coming off of that, judgment and wormwood, and I forget what the other one was. But just to show, yeah, there it is, and distorts. I was never going to remember that one. Okay, and distort. So these three items here, if you can just circle them with your there you go, your mouse. So if you see this little, almost looks like a circus tent, right? So Yahuwah's Zabaoth on the top. Yeah, she's got it right here below, so you can kind of just see it all come off of there. And actually, I think initialization reset, is that also coming off of that Yahuwah Zabaoth? Your purple term in the diagonal on the left is, yep, that looks like that's your initialization reset word right there, also coming off. So you can kind of see her process here, and all the terms come down. She's got them basically lined up in the English and the Hebrew, and also with Strong's numbers, either above or below the table, right about where the term is occurring. So for instance, this long green one is, since I don't see anything green on the top, I can assume it's right under it. There it is, NASA. There's NASA in the long green. So that's how you follow Janette's tables.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love Janette's name, by the way, because she has an Aleph Tau and a Tau Aleph in her name. So I always regard her as with her full name because I'm aware of that Aleph Tau Tau Aleph there. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Can you also see that where you've got and judgment? So you're coming from Yahuwah. If you zoom in, yep. So at the top there in the plain text, you've got Yahuwah Zabaoth. In the second hay of Yahuwah, you've got coming down and judgment. And if you follow that black or grey line down, you've also got his throne in the purple in that same line. If you follow that black line down, which is sharing the summit with the access term in Apophis, and also the star on the other side. So it's like a rainbow, or a rays. You know, ever see the sun when the sun rays coming through, like a ray effect of things coming down from the Shamaim. Just like astounding. Did you want to share any plain text things there, Jan? Any Ramsel that you're interested in? Obviously, we've got Yahuwah Zabaoth there in the plain text, and over on the right there was something as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got it ready.
Yeah, please.
It's interesting. The underlying scriptures is so good.
I have looked up Wormwood in the Hebrew as well, just because I was interested. If you want me to,
these lovely new terms in this same table that I did before. It's quite strange. Oh, where my list has gone. Where's my list gone? What it's going to be.
You want me quickly to share about the Hebrew word wormwood while you're looking? You there, Jan?
Sorry?
I've got the screen up to share the Hebrew word wormwood.
I'll go on then.
Yeah, if you're otherwise engaged. So
I'm not share screen.
that's all right. Okay. So I figured I want to know, what is this word? And we were talking before we started about the Apophis wormwood. Where's the correlation there? We've got, so I looked up Revelation, Bible Hub. We love Bible Hub. You just go here to Hebrew, and it'll bring up the Orthodox Jewish Hebrew Bible, so you can get the New Testament in Hebrew. So here is the verse, which is Revelation 8, verse 11, which reads, "And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter." Okay, so I took that and put it into Google Translate Israel, and I got this word Lana. I'm like, okay, well that's got to be the term for wormwood. So if you look here, look, Lana. So then I took that over to Strong's, and we got H3939, which is Lana, and I realised afterwards with this that you did have it on your table, Lamed Ayin Noon Hay. So it's translated as wormwood, right? Not a lot of occurrences, 8 occurrences, right? Hemlock or wormwood from an unused root, supposedly to mean to curse. Interesting, I thought. Wormwood regarded as poisonous and therefore accursed. Hemlock and wormwood. Well, then that led me to the thought process of what's hemlock, which is this one here. A plant of the genus Conium whose leaves and roots are poisonous. So a poisonous tree, right? A tree of the genus Pinus and evergreen, so a pine tree. A poison and infusion or decoction of the poisonous plant. Popular liberty might have, no, that'll just be a sample. And the word wormwood, as we know, we like the Webster's 1828 dictionary because it links things back to the Bible. So wormwood in here is a plant, the Artemisia. It has a bitter, nauseous taste, but it affects the stomach and makes the stomach strong, and that corroborant means roughly the same thing as well. So that was the word for wormwood.
Well, Bonnie, can you look at the scripture in Deuteronomy 29 and just get the context of where that's first mentioned?
Yeah. But the idea that it's to curse is very interesting.
Yeah.
Do we want to
It
look
speaks
at
of rebellion. Yeah, ISR, I think.
ISR? Yeah, 29:18.
Might be a couple of verses up before that.
So there's the word there. So what's
Yeah.
out here?
So maybe start at let's start for verse 14. And not with you alone,
Oh,
I am making this covenant and this oath, but with him who stands here with us today before Yahuwah our Elohim, as well as with him who is not here with us today. That would be like us. For you know how we dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim and how we passed through the nations which you passed through. He's speaking to the 12 tribes right here. And you saw their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were with them, lest there should be among you a man or woman or clan or tribe whose heart turns away today from Yahuwah our Elohim to go and serve the mighty ones of these nations, lest there should be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood.
Mm.
Yep. So turning away from Yahuwah.
Yep. And haven't we just?
Yes.
And
Did
more to come.
in your Hebrew definition, I'm thinking I saw the word Artemis.
Yes.
I saw that. So Artemis, the god, little Artemis. I think I saw something about
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
no, it's the
Absent.
plain scientific name. Interesting.
Yeah. And of course, I think is that where absinthe comes from, which is
Yes.
from like a licorice, which is like deadly. I mean, it's a liquor. You can't get it anymore, but
Mm.
I think it was like a licorice type liquor.
Absent, yeah.
Absinthe. Yeah, I don't think you can get absinthe. Oh, you can get it in Europe. Okay. Didn't know that.
Oh, okay. That's in the Zoom chat. Right.
That's interesting though, isn't it? Artemis.
We've also got Teresa in the live chat saying that wormwood is a parasite cleanse. Okay, yeah. So, but we're talking about bitter, something bitter, and something cursed. It's like I just thought that was.
I've taken it before. I've taken it before, wormwood for a parasite cleanse, and maybe it works sort of like homeopathic. Is that right? Am I saying the right word? Where you take a little bit of it to stimulate your system against it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. So that's the word lana. And I've got it here in the clients as well, page 304. Lion, Lamed iron noon hay, wormwood, probably related to Arabic a little bit. La'an equals curse. And then we've got Lamed iron noon is in bitter. Back formation from Lamed iron noon hay. HIPH, whatever that means. Hay Lamed iron Yod noon, capital NH, he embittered. Literally, he made as bitter as wormwood.
Over there under Deuteronomy 20.
Oh, sorry, there's a word curse in there as well.
Under Deuteronomy 29:18, we've also got the word gall, beareth gall associated with gall and wormwood. And I've heard some translations say that when Yahushua was on the cross, that they stuck the sword with the sponge and it was gall. Have y'all ever heard that? Gall? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't know what gall is.
Isn't
But it had to be something bitter.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, as a nurse, is there a relationship? I think our naturopath told us that there is a relationship between gallstones. There's a relationship between gall and anger.
Probably it makes sense because everything has something physical. So holding bitterness in you would actually turn up as a gallstone. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting thing that here we find this word bitterness is rosh. Wow. Wasn't expecting that.
I think the letter resh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is also letters in Bereshit, right? We have this beginning, this sense of beginning in Rosh. So that's interesting that there's this bitterness. There's a bitterness implied in that word in the beginning.
Oh dear.
But when Yahushua was on the cross, then they gave him bitterness. It was bitterness. It was the beginning.
There it's translated to poison.
Yeah.
You know,
Probably from a poppy. Look at that. Poppy. Gall. There's gall again.
And it says poison
hemlock
even of serpents.
It says hemlock. Hemlock is so deadly around here that you can't pull it up by your hands. You can't mow it down. You got to dispose of it in garbage bags and use gloves. It's so dangerous.
Oh my, it's something that grows wild.
And infusion, y'all, look at number 3, a poison and infusion. That's interesting.
I thought that was very interesting too, that definition. I didn't, it was one of those things like, don't say nothing, just don't say nothing there.
Right. We noticed the last 2 words though, and that one is pretty well in the other one, in the last slide, last one right there, last 2 words right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to read between the lines on that.
Which would go with the actual meaning of the word Apophis, which is just amazing.
That was my little rabbit hole anyway.
Yeah, that's a fun. Love the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
They're talking about serpents there, poison, and there are many who believe that there's a whole other level of that there was in Genesis 1:1 there had already been an earth, but that it was in chaos. It was, void, and that it was restored. So that's just so interesting. I didn't realize that the word for beginning also is poison there, right, Bonnie? Was it poison?
Yeah.
The roast?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it kind of is making me think about this 1,000-year beginning, new beginning, like a catastrophic.
In the beginning, Adam and Eve fell and it poisoned everything. So it kind of fits.
Yeah, but in the beginning, like a total wipeout, which makes it void and chaos out of the void,
It had initialization and reset in there too, in the table.
Wow, I'm really even more thankful for that word rescued. And I'm going to be zoning in on that more, looking at this.
Yes.
Oh, it's very great, very interesting.
Every time we do the same table again, it throws up so many different terms, it's so alive, like the word is so alive. I think, you look at it again in another couple of years and it's like another different table, even though it's the same table. It's amazing.
And this is
Did
your
you-
second time to do the table. So obviously the Father
Yes.
wanted you to find these additional terms. I see what you're saying, like it's alive, you know,
Yeah,
and
and
Every
this one
letter
more
is alive.
hopeful.
it's being revealed. It's revealing the Father. It's revealing more. So I think that again, the Father's training this to, he's going to show us more and more as we're ready. Show us as we need it.
Yes, as
So
time
then
goes.
you have to ask the question, are the codes prophetic? Are they prophetic? You know, we always shy away from that word with Bible codes, but are they? Is it just showing us possibilities?
I think they're possibilities, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think they're prophetic.
Are they going to become prophetic? You know, is this what he
That
doesn't
I
reveal
don't.
anything without first telling
we won't
us, you know,
know.
I mean,
Eventually, he might lead you code searchers to the point where they are prophetic, as long as you stick to what he want, you know, to his plan, to his words, what he's trying to tell you.
Yes.
I think he's trying to talk to us in every way possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, numbers that he'll use anything. Look how willing we are. Look how hungry we are for the word,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
to see.
And Jeremiah 29, 12, you know, 29:11 is, I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And then it goes, but you have to search for me with all your heart. When you search for me with all your heart, you will be found, or I will be found by you. There you go. You got to have the heart to
Exactly,
do it. Yep. It has to come from your
That's
heart.
excellent.
Greatest desire. Yeah.
So let's have a look underneath, shall we? And see what this code table is lying on. Like I say, it's Amos 7:10 to Nehemiah 8:9. So I know that the Yod and the Pei and the Aleph here in the access term are very appropriate. So the Yod actually says, how much less one who is abominable and filthy, a man who drinks iniquity like water. And that's Job chapter 15, verse 16. So we're talking about this thing falling on the waters. So how much less is one who is abominable and filthy, a man who drinks iniquity like water. And the Pei, that one there, is Proverbs 29, verse 8. Scornful men stir up a city into quarrel, but wise men turn away wrath.
Interesting.
Maybe it
And
was that.
pay is the mouth, remember?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And this Pei, I stretch forth my hands to you. My soul thirsts after you like a parched land. Selah. Psalms 143:6. And then this Aleph. This is good. Psalms 114, verse 3. The sea saw it and fled. The Jordan was driven back.
Wow.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. We've got the Yod in Yahuwah Zavuoth, which we know from the code table is up here. So this Yod is Zephaniah 2, verse 9. So it's over a lot of the books. It says, therefore, as I live, says Yahuwah Zavuoth, the Elohim of Israel, surely Moab shall be like Sodom, and the Ammonites like Gomorrah, the breeding place of nettles and salt pits, and a desolation forever. The remnant of my people shall plunder them, and the survivors of my people shall possess them. Wow.
Awesome.
And this
Hallelujah.
was, yeah, and this was appointed time, Moedim. And we're looking for the mem. And that is Job 34:13, which says, who has given him a charge over the earth, or who has disposed the whole earth?
Wow. So that's really talking about, yeah, it's the authority.
Yes.
Mm.
And we also have this Yod in Yeshua, which is Psalms 1437. It says, answer me speedily, O Yahuwah, my spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, lest I be like those who go down into the pit.
You imagine the cries, that
Yes.
when a major disaster like is coming and yeah, well,
It's going to be fall on us, isn't it?
You know, I just wonder, with it being that big, is it pulling in other debris with it, where it's going to literally be raining down,
Yeah.
you know, fire and brimstone?
Yeah, well done,
Seems
Terry.
like it,
because
seems like it
Sorry.
would pull. Seems like it would pull other stuff with it, which would be incoming for sure.
and that will probably be the fire mixed with blood and hail thing.
Right.
And if I just show you the Zadi that's in that word for rescue, Natsal, is Proverbs 13:21. Evil pursues sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. See it here in the vertical.
Yeah.
So there we are.
It's a complicated table. Was that difficult to annotate for you, Jan?
It was a bit, which is why
Yeah.
I split it up into two halves.
Yeah.
That was the only way I was going to, get my head around, because you had words within words diagonally, and then another word along the top of that same diagonal. I was thinking, oh my, Father, you're testing me now. I just want to do a good job and make him
You did,
to
Jan.
show-
Awesome.
what he shows us.
Janette, what was that last scripture about evil pursuing sinners?
Oh,
I just
don't
didn't
know.
read it enough.
Which one was it? It was the
The
Zadi.
last you had on your screen, yeah, evil pursue sinner, but something about the righteous.
It was the
So-
Zadi in
Proverbs 19:21, 13:21.
Proverbs 13:21. Evil
13:21.
pursues sinners, but
Yes.
the righteous.
Bonnie writes everything down.
No,
That's good.
it's on my other screen here on the live feed.
Oh. There, yeah, it's Proverbs 13:21, as Bonnie said. Evil pursue sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. And that's in this rescue, taken away, snatched.
That is so wonderful. Hey, the reason I didn't get that written down, because I was looking at another word. It was another, maybe one or two verses back. And I noticed a word, tabel, which is, I don't know if I got the vowel points on it. Right. It looks like Tibal. I might need glasses to read this well, but anyway, it was for the world. It was a scripture that you had there that ended in world. And so I was looking at that word because I think about things like that, like, well, that looks like table. That looks like our English table. So I just went and looked it up to see what it was. I wasn't even sure what word it was at the time, but now I see it as a word that translated to world. Now my eyes are starting to focus a little. It looks like it's tabel. It's world. And it says usually derived from yabal, to bear, carry. So when you think about the world having something to do with, it's got to be bared or born. It's you got to bear it. You got to carry it. In terms of Yahuwah has to carry it. It says, however, it is more probable that it derives from the Akkadian tabalu, which equals continent. So here's an idea of a continent, the world with a perspective on continent. And also the Syriac word Tibal is the habitable earth. And then I look over and I see it also means, Tibal means to spice, but my eyes are just not seeing this word really well in the this little thing magnify it for me a little bit. I had a little light on it too, that would help. It looks like Tebel, confusion, violation of the natural order, abomination.
Wow.
Y'all, if you don't have goosebumps at this point,
Yeah.
our world in the Hebrew, this particular world, because there are other words that have to do with the earth and different parameters, like eretz is the earth, and that's like the measured area and stuff like that. Sounds like area. It's related to area. But this word
Sounds like
Tibel,
Baal too. Sounds
Yeah.
like Baal, and we're told
Yeah.
not to love this world, right? Not to love
Right.
Baal.
Yep, that's
Wow.
a bet I comment. So they are definitely related, Leah. But in this particular definition, besides world, besides continent, habitable earth, and spicing, to throw that into the mix. It's also confusion, violation of the natural order, and abomination. Like this was doomed from the beginning. This word, that's included in what when you put those three letters together. And actually, I wanted to go back and visit this because Terry asked me about Zabaoth. And so when I stepped away for a moment, I felt like the Ruach HaKodesh said letters. I forgot to mention the letters. So the Aleph Wa Ta, which is the Aleph is the first letter, the Ta is the last letter, and the Wa is in the middle there somewhere. But the Wa is a letter that's like a nail or a hook. It affixes, it attaches, it joins two things together. If you nail your one piece of wood, but two pieces of wood rather onto another piece of wood, then you've affixed them all. You kind of joined them, you've affixed them. They can't go anywhere. If you nail the hand of the Mashiach onto wood, it can't go anywhere, right? It's affixed, it's attached. So this Wa letter is like a nail, and it affixes or it attaches two other things, attaching the Aleph to the Ta. And this word, actually, if you look up in this Klein dictionary here, it says it's a letter of the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet. So that's the oat part, but it's also, the Wata is also a pluralization. So I went back to look at this Zabaoth again. So the Zaba, as I defined already, and then Zaba that's just a Zadi Bet Aleph, is to wage war, serve. It also, the Arabic Zaba'ah is he went forth, whence he gathered together against. And it also means, Zaba means he assembled, gathered together, he served, he waged war, he fought. It also means army, host, military service, warfare, service, fixed time. So Eric Bissell talking about the Zab being like the tortoise shell or the litter that's covered. We have these Hebrew letters and they mean something, and their power is within them, what Yahuwah has given them to mean. And so when we look at these codes tables and we see these Hebrew letters, they mean something. When we put this Ta Bet Lamed together, Tabel or Tabel, Tebel, Tabal, however the vowel points are, these three letters together, these are the meanings that come up. It's even spices on the earth. So they have many different meanings, but they're there. Those meanings are there. And then we could play with going backwards. I don't even know off the top of my head or memory what Lamed Bet Ta is, but if it's in here, it'll tell us all the different variations. There's different ways to deal with these letters, to manipulate them. Sometimes they are used backwards in the scriptures. And even in our tables, we find them backwards. And they just have significant meanings So we love the Hebrew language, and this is why. It's just filled. These Hebrew letters are filled with meaning and power. They are the letters that Yahuwah has given us and he has created, and it is the pure language. I'm going to turn my mic off now because I've got a pretty big rainstorm here, y'all.
You're turning it back over to us. Brian's exploding.
You know, this wormwood is a subject that the whole world is interested in. I mean, anybody that knows anything about scripture or anything, and you know, I just keep thinking about the Coburn Bible and what it said about, you know, it says times go by for such a long period of time that people forget, but it was written down long ago, you know, and it was called the destroyer, the frightener. You know, is this, it sounds like it would be categorized as evil, chaotic. You know, does it seems to fit the description in the Coburn Bible of the catastrophic events that have happened before. You know, so maybe this is the 1,000-year cycle of predicted, you know, not random, you know, a cycle by the Father. And maybe that is what has knocked us off of our access, you know, the earth before the previous pass-bys or flybys, you know, who knows? Is this Nibiru? Does it have many names? Is it, you know, is it Apophis, Wormwood, the Frightener, the Destroyer, all these names? Is it the same thing they're talking about?
Fiery serpent, the red dragon, a third
Yeah.
of the stones cast down with his tail.
I mean, that is exactly how it describes it in the Coburn Bible.
Yeah,
And I
Well,
think it's,
in the,
is
sorry,
it, no, it wouldn't be the Colburn, pardon?
in the live chat, sorry, we're just on this topic because in the live chat it was just asked about if the polar flip comes up, and I'm thinking that would be an awesome Bible code.
Yeah, it would.
People would
Yeah.
like to, you know, encourage
What
us
would
to
you call it?
Oh, I don't know.
Polar.
So sorry, Leah, what were you going to say? Leah's here. Hi, Leah.
No, I was just,
Hey, Leah.
hi,
Shalom,
I'm out.
Leah.
doing my first kayak and the bugs are bad. So I got a little bit of a net on my head here. They bit me in the eye the other day and my eye was all swelled up. It looked like someone
Oh.
punched me in the eye. So I got to go to work like that. So I'm trying to protect myself a little bit. But anyways, I was going to say maybe it's in the Colburn, but it wouldn't be. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I was watching Stephen Ben-Janoun, and he said that it showed that David had actually written over 400 Psalms. And then apparently there's like I'm hitting the shore here. Apparently there's like 4,000 altogether. No, wait a second. No, he did the numbers that line up with, so he did 30, right, for the amount of days in the month. Then he did 360 for the days in the year. And he said, then there was 3,600. And he said the only thing that would relate to is the cycle that does every 3,600 years. And I shared the two videos with Janette, but I'll put them in water cooler. But I think they're about a year old that he did them, but he was talking about how other scriptures or other books, ancient texts, are also talking about it. So he does relate to the Colburn and he does relate to the Dead Sea Scrolls, talking historically about the stuff that's been recorded about Apophis, or like all the names that you were just mentioning, Janette, Wormwood, and the Destroyer, the fiery red dragon, all of that stuff. It's fascinating.
It is. When you say 3,600, you know, it makes me think maybe 3.5. If it's 1,000, maybe it's 3,500. That's so close. And then,
They
that
say
would,
the cycle is every 3,600 years it comes.
But if you think maybe it's 35 instead of 36, that would be 3,000 and a half, 3.5, where if
Like
we're
the
working
3.5
on,
years. Yeah.
well, or 3,500 years, 3,500 years,
Yeah.
3.5 thousand years. If a day is 1,000 years.
Right. Yeah, because everything else he said, it's just, I'll share them because I'm not great at recapturing what someone says. But yeah, he said it's just interesting that everything else correlates to something except for that 3,600. And he said, obviously David, like so many of them must have known about this cycle because they talk about all of the events and, this happened and the sky turned red and the waters turned red and, all of the things that are mentioned. So,
Well, that would, if there was a
fascinating.
300.
It is scary. It's scary
Yeah.
though, when you think about it. Like, I know we're not to fear, but it's going to be pretty fearful when you think about it. I don't know how we're going to sit there and go, I'm not afraid. No problem.
You don't need to be afraid after you see the table. Did you see the table, Leah?
No, I was in it. Sorry, I was in an area with no internet. I thought I would have
Okay.
internet. I went to
Could you see it
a
now?
different
If I put
lake.
it up quick.
Well, I seen the table when I first came on. You still had it up, but
Okay,
if you
all
put it
right.
up now,
When I put it
but I'm
on
gonna rewatch.
board,
I'll rewatch this anyways because I want to see it all. I was really looking forward to it.
because it has a word, as we've been talking about, the rescue, taken away, and
Yeah.
I was amazed to see that, because as I believe that that happens after tribulation. But I mean, this is another 6 years away, so we don't know what is happening. But the fact that it's in the table is wonderful,
Yeah.
about going
Did
home.
you get Jan, did you get a chance to watch either of those videos that I sent you from
Not yet. No,
Stephen Bendanoon? Okay.
not
Well, I'll
those
post them
ones.
in water cooler anyways, because there's a lot of information there that, I don't think I've heard anywhere else. And there's the Colburn, there's the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's all different types of ancient texts that all kind of correlate and say the same sort of thing about it historically.
Yes. Yeah. And they just give the Bible more weight, Yahuwah's word. And when they do that, that's what we
When you
go
were talking
with.
about, Zavaot, Yahuwah Zavaot, and that meaning like a litter, a carrier, something hidden, tortoise shell, that reminded me of let me hide you for a little while. Let me hide you for a little while. The scripture.
I totally believe that everything that everybody thinks about the rapture is about being taken to the wilderness and hiding. Like there'll be a point where we need to hide ourselves and stay. It's almost like the wickedness is going to be poured out. I guess it's going to be the 3 days of darkness. And, it's not something that you want to go out in that. You hide yourself from that. And then whoever survives that is, the enemy is going to be starting to try to hunt down and find the true followers. And then at some point, I believe that, we're taken to the wilderness. And isn't it interesting that Africa is splitting?
Yeah, they just had a big earthquake, didn't they? Yesterday.
Yeah,
Today.
so it's like it's setting apart a piece of land that could be possibly where we could be going to. Who knows?
We're getting so many big earthquakes happening. and the sun is releasing, lots of flares and CMEs and solar storm going
Our
on.
weather, it's so wacky. No,
Yeah, we're getting
weather.
the auroras coming further south, and people are thinking, "Oh, isn't that pretty? It looks so nice," but not
Yeah.
realizing
They
what
do
is
say
actually
as soon as,
happening.
yeah, they say as soon as we see it, then like it's way too late. Like it's, once it's seen, it's in our atmosphere, and everything is just going to pop off like crazy. So, the biggest thing that I've heard advice wise of preparing is to just move inland, get away from the waterways, because the water level is going to rise so much. That's the
Just
biggest
listen
thing
to
that
the
I've heard.
Father. Listen to him
Yeah.
and go where he says to go.
Yeah.
Out
Yeah,
of
prepare.
the time, because he's the
Prepare.
only one.
Yeah,
It
prepare
says
your heart.
yes, 10,000 will fall at your right and 1,000 at your left, but it will not come near you. And, I don't know how that plays out, but we shall see. But it's all his timing. It's all his seals are being opened. It's his angels that are going to come and release these things for him. So that's what we got to remember, because then Yahushua is back himself when it's completed, and we're that much nearer.
With that
Yeah,
said-
and he takes possession. He takes possession, and it's his, and we're his. So do we have anything to fear? No.
No way.
No, we don't. But definitely, I feel like we passed some point on the clock a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Like, definitely, it was like, uh-oh, we're not in Kansas anymore on the calendar, right? We definitely graduated into, yeah, we're not going back to normal. Normal's bye-bye. Amping it up.
That's just becoming more and more profound as the years go by, that it's not going back to, it's not
Even
going
the
to get
days-
better.
The days go by.
Yeah,
as
it's not going to get any better. So the thing that's speaking to me is that you get stronger, prepare, get stronger,
Yes.
get your faith muscles stronger, get ready. We're warriors. We have to get ready, prepare our hearts, shore up each other, encourage each other.
Yep. Be in the word. If we're not hearing from the Father, we need to figure that out. That's not his fault. That's not his fault. If we don't hear his voice, if he can't nudge us and get us to move, then that's not his fault. It lies with us. The responsibility is on our end. Hey, Bonnie, can you pull up Matthew 24? I thought that would be, because Terry already mentioned it, and I just think maybe we could read this. Does anybody want to read this chapter?
I'm happy to if no one else wants to.
My absolutely favorite, but I don't have my glasses and I can't see. So yes, go for it, Bonnie.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And going out, Yahushua went away from the set apart place, and he's taught ones. I'm reading the ISR version for those of you who are new. We find that's the best one because it's got restored names. And going out, Yahushua went away from the set apart place, and his taught ones came near to point out to him the buildings of the set apart place, which you usually would probably see temple in there. Temple. And you would see the J word there. And Yahushua said to them, Do you not see all these? Truly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another at all, which shall not be thrown down. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the taught ones came to him separately, saying, Say to us, when shall this be, and what is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And Yahushua answering said to them, Take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. And you shall begin to hear of fightings and reports of fightings. Say that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcities of food and deadly diseases and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. And this Besorah, this good news of the reign, shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations. And then the end shall come. And then, so when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up in the set apart place, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehudah flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take whatever out of his house. And let him who is in the field not turn back to get his garments. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter or on the Shabbat. For then there shall be great distress, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved, but for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. If anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. See, I have forewarned you. So if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. For wherever the dead body is, there the eagles shall be gathered together. And immediately after the distress of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, Shamayim, and the powers of the Shamayim shall be shaken. And then the son of Adam shall appear in the heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the son of Adam coming on the clouds of the heaven with power and much esteem. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of the earth, heavens to the other. And learn the parable from the fig tree. When a branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. So you also, when you see all these, know that he is near at the doors. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away until all this takes place. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. But concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, but my Father only. And as for the days of Noah, so also shall be the coming of the son of Adam be. For as they were in the days before the flood, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and they did not know until the flood came and took them all away, so also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. Then two shall be in the field, the one is taken and the one is left. Two shall be grinding at the mill, one is taken and one is left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your master is coming. And know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Because of this, be ready too, for the son of Adam is coming at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is a trustworthy and wise servant, whom his master set over his household to give them food in season? Baruch is that servant whom his master, having come, shall find so doing. Truly I say to you that he shall set him over all his possessions. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, and begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunkards, the master of that servant shall come on a day when he does not expect it, and at an hour he does not know, and shall cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Wow.
Yeah, both sides of that, both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found it interesting when I was looking at some of the Apophis stuff last night, designing the thumbnail and so forth, that it seems that NASA has this countdown video going with a simulation. Just so interesting. And they
Yeah,
also
I
talked about,
subscribe to that because I just
Yeah.
thought, wow, that'll be cool to just kind of keep watch of the events that are happening as that thing nears itself. So
yeah,
if it's real, but they know,
Yeah.
they know.
I did have trouble finding it on NASA. In fact, when I went over, looked at the NASA, you just, what do they call it? They say never a straight answer, right? They were talking about 2068. They weren't talking about 2029. They sort of snuck that in, like, oh, well, here's this little thing over here about 2029. But what they were really talking about was 2068, I believe. And then maybe we'll see it again in another 7 years past that. It's like, well, how does that work with it being once every 1,000 years or once every 3,600 years or what have you? How is it making more than one appearance then? So close
Sounds
together.
like confusion. Sounds like confusion to me.
Exactly. Keep them in the dark, chaos and darkness.
And people don't seem to twig, that it's not making sense. They just believe everything that they're told. If it's scientists and if it's organizations, then they must know what they're talking about. We must believe them.
Yeah, it's like the frog in the water, right? Put the frog in tepid water and then turn the water up. When did we get to where we don't question the government when they name an asteroid hurling towards the earth, name it after an Egyptian deity of chaos and destruction and the cosmic stone of destruction and darkness? When do we not question what are they doing? Why are they doing that?
Here's the hang on, was it the live thing from NASA, just so you can go find it. Oh, hang on, no, it's not.
It was like a world cam or something. Yeah. Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, one of the articles talked about asteroid caused earthquakes. I think it was asteroid earthquakes is what they called it. So they said we're going to experience that as well.
Already experiencing it. Are we already experiencing like side effects from something incoming?
Right.
I think so.
And why should we believe how big it is? I mean, maybe it's bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Wow, what a big difference. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
People are watching this, and it's got some nice music going with it. And what we've got 6 years here to watch this thing. I mean, just even the number of years. We know we're 2 years into something here, beyond 2 years into something, and then now we're being told that this is coming in April of 2029 on a Friday the 13th.
Got a marker there.
And look at this number, 99942.
I bet
Right.
Which, if you turn that upside down, that's 666.
Right, of course. Of
That was
course.
my point.
Some interesting stuff on the number 42 as well.
I don't know too much about that, Bonnie.
It's a Kabbalah thing, I think.
Okay,
and
could be.
just yeah, like the sacred geometry sort of stuff. It's yeah. Like,
Look at and imagine this thing is as big as the Empire State Building, hurtling toward the Earth. They talked about how many megatons of like a nuclear, was it nuclear? Like a nuclear explosion that would be like. It was ridiculous. It was just ridiculous to see the difference between like a small nuclear explosion and then this thing that's just ginormous. And
It
some
says
people
it's
say at this
coming-
point,
Says it's coming from this picture's coming from an observatory in Arizona, which I believe the Lucifer telescope is at Mount Graham. I think that's Arizona.
That's right, Terry, yes. And don't forget 2 other things are coming before it too. We're going to have the earth being hit and we're going to have the sea being hit. And this is then the 3rd thing. And then there's going to be another 4 things that happen, whether it's in quick succession with the other angels that are going to release what they've got as well. So,
well, the
this is
Father
just
has the end and the limit to how much it's he's going to put up with.
of course,
Just so much. There's the wickedness we know about, we hear about, we get whispers about stuff we don't even want to have a vapor of a whisper about because it's so wicked and evil, and it's just become prevalent. What's being put out that we hear, that comes to our eyes, you know, that you think about that little song, the Sunday school song, be careful little eyes what you see, right? Be careful little ears what you hear.
good is evil and evil is good now.
Yeah, there's just a whole celebration of wickedness. And it's he has a limit. He has a limit. There was a time when the Hebrew slaves left Egypt, and it was 430 years to the day from the time Yahuwah said to Abram at the time when he was even asleep in like a coma, like a deep sleep, like a surgery, right? He was put to sleep. And Yahuwah was having a conversation actually with Yahushua about this covenant. And he's speaking to Abram though, and he says in 430 years, when the wickedness of the Canaanites was complete, they would be brought out. And we're told I think it's in Exodus chapter 12, 430 years to the day. So he's very precise. There's an exact day. And guess what? That exact day was on Passover. So we know the exact day that Yahuwah gave that prophecy to Abram, who was asleep on the ground there. It was on Passover and that high Shabbat, you know, one of those 2 days there. High Shabbat on the 15th day of the first month. If it was 430 days to the exact day, that was 430 days before. 430 years, sorry. 430 years before, to the exact day though, that would have been the 15th, the day they came out of Egypt in their slavery in Egypt. So he's very exact.
Deuteronomy 15, did you say, Darla?
I said no, Genesis. I think I said Genesis, but I meant Genesis. That's where the covenant happens with Abram. And I'll turn over there real quick.
Yeah, I was just going to bring it up for you.
You may. Thank you. I just look at my scriptures because I know on what side of the page kind of the answer is, I think. Yeah, so we'll start in verse 13, Bonnie. In fact, we'll start in verse 12. So we got to think about when the sun's going down and what time of the year this is, y'all. This is an appointed time. This is a time to have goosebumps right now, okay? And it came to be when the sun was going down, okay? And a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that sea of frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I'm going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a tobe old age. Then in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the crookedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. So it's not the Canaanites, it's the Amorites. And it came to be when the sun went down and it was dark, that see a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Euphrates, with the Canaanite and the Kenizzite and the Cadmonite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Rephaim and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Girgashite and the Jebusite. Okay. Yeah, so that's the end of the chapter. So if we look in the stones, there it is, stones to knock. Let me go look at a footnote on here, because this is going to be important to understand, because so I'm looking at with my eyesight, I'm looking at a book that this is the Stones to Knock, and it starts here. It goes backwards, right? It goes backwards from our English perspective, but it's actually forwards. It's just we have a backwards understanding. So I have to flip over from this way to get through. And let's put a note here in Genesis 12, I believe. See if this is it. Let's see, it says Abraham was born in the year 1948 from creation. So from the beginning, in the year 2000, 4 years after the dispersion and 6 years before the death of Noah. And he started to influence disciples to serve Elohim. With the emergence of Abraham, the era of desolation had come to an end, and the era of Torah had begun. All right, so that's not quite the note I'm looking for. I'm actually in chapter 11 there. 12, trying to get to 15. All right, here we go. This is a footnote in the Stones to Knock, verse 13 of chapter 15. There would be a total of 400 years of alien status, in which would be included the 210 years of literal exile in Egypt. So that's the first thing to get around your head around, is that they were not in Egypt for 430 years, okay? But they were in they were in the land 430 years from this chapter, but we're going to talk about 400 years here. There would be a total of 400 years of alien status, and this includes the 210 years of literal exile in Egypt, and also the 20 years that Jacob spent with Laban in Haran. The servitude mentioned in this prophecy took place during the last 116 years of the Egyptian servitude. So they were servants, they were slaves in Egypt for 116 years. The last 86 years of which were a time of harsh oppression. So they kind of got into an easier servitude. You got 116 years, and then so for 30 years it wasn't so bad, but then the last 86 years it was a hard oppression. It says, when Pharaoh intensified the suffering of the Jews, the calculation of the 400 years would begin 30 years after this vision. So 30 years after, where Abraham's sleeping here on the ground, Abram at this point, where he's sleeping on the ground, it's going to be 30 years later. It says, with the birth of Isaac, since he never had the permanent home or the prestige and honor enjoyed by Abraham, he and his offspring were considered aliens, even during the years that they lived in Eretz, or the land of Israel. After those 400 years, Abraham's offspring would be able to take possession of the land. So it's 430 years from this date. And then if we look over, Bonnie, in I think it's in Exodus 12 or Shemot 12. I'm pretty sure it's there. We'll look for the verse. So all of this to say, this little rabbit trail here, all of this to say, Yahuwah has a specific exact time, a specific exact day, I believe, because we can have that in Scripture. It's towards the end of chapter 12. Okay, let's look at chapter 41. I mean, verse 41, chapter 12, verse 41. There we go. And it came to be at the end of the 430 years on that same day, it came to be that all the divisions of Yahuwah went out from the land of Mitzrayim. So we can know that this was 430 years from chapter 15 of Genesis, where Abram's asleep. In fact, it even says that right there, the verse. No, never mind. You're in Genesis 15, the deep sleep. I'm looking at verse 12. And it came to be when the sun was going down in a deep sleep. So the exact same day, I would submit that this was the Passover day. This was the evening when Passover is. Abram is asleep. His name is Abram at this point. And so he's asleep. I would submit this is the Passover day anniversary. And then that they came out within, the next morning, then within that 24 hours, they came out. I think it says they came out by evening. So if I'm off by one day, it not being Passover, but it being the very next day, they came out. And the scriptures do say that they came out at evening. So then this is the 15th. It's a high Shabbat. It's right after the Passover. But the fact that there's animals laying on the ground that have been slaughtered, I would submit that, okay, 14th or 15th. What do you guys think? But it's definitely an anniversary right there. It's either Passover or it is the high Shabbat right after that. We're within 24 hours there of them leaving.
I think it's unleavened bread. I think it's after Passover.
So they came out, they definitely came out on the same day, 430 years later from when this word was spoken over Abram. So the father's exact, very exact. And it's also interesting just to look at that Stones Tanakh footnote that says 86 years of hard labor. That hard slavery was 86 years long. Kind of reminds me of Judah being in Babylon for the 70 years.
So 86 years of hard labor, not 400, which is
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't born for another 30 years.
They talked about 4 generations here somewhere.
Yep, right after that. Yeah,
so
there
a generation has 100 years roughly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so only one generation of hard labor.
Yeah, one generation of exactly, Bonnie, even less than.
And if you go read the what was it, the book of Jasher, you'll actually see they got tricked into it.
Really? Tell us about that, Bonnie.
Oh.
How did they get tricked,
It was like you come to work for us and we'll give you wages. And then it was okay, we'll get everyone working side by side, Hebrews and Egyptians. And then it was like, okay, the Egyptians slowly withdrew themselves and then they were put back in. And then the wages reduced and stopped. And then the Egyptians were introduced back in as taskmasters. And it was a slavery. And another part was the tribe of Levi did not go.
They didn't go to work?
They didn't go. No, they said
that
is fascinating to me. I mean, look, I know it's not the canon, but that is fascinating, and it speaks so much to now that it is ridiculous.
Yes, it does.
Promises from the leadership, promises, and we got you.
And they start pulling stuff away. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like they'll tell you, oh, well, we're going to pass this now, but it doesn't really mean this right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just accept it. We're not really going to put it into practice right now, but we'll just accept it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, if you're inclined, go read the book of Jasher. It's not canon, and a lot of people will go, just don't want to go there. But the correlation of everything else that lines up is interesting, and there's extra stuff in there that you go, wow, is that, who knows?
would you be able to locate those those passages for us to kind of dial us in? You know, like in the description later, Bonnie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's easy on the CEPA app. Get the CEPA app on your phone. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is awesome. This is just so awesome. I think it's so great that the Father has an exact day. And then, of course, Yahushua said, you know, that servant better be doing what I left him to do when I come back. It's worth mentioning also here, and I'll see about putting this in the description, a link. I've done a lot of research on when is the next Jubilee. I believe I was given 2 questions, and those 2 questions were, did Yahushua declare the Jubilee when he read from the scroll in the synagogue from Isaiah? And then if that is true, the second question is, in what year did that occur? And so those were the questions I believe I was given by the Ruach HaKodesh, and those are the ones I set out to answer, and those are the ones I do believe I did answer. So I will also put in the description a link to that Google Doc that I have, that y'all can go and read and research yourself why I believe that the next Jubilee is in 2029 as a 2000 year anniversary to 29, and that being the year 29, and that being announced at Yom Kippur the year before, which was 28. That was when he did it, when he read from Isaiah 61. So again, an anniversary, and also that Yahushua had made it clear to them when the Jubilee year was, and that they had gotten off on their calendar by then. Their understanding, they were counting for every 49 years, not every 50 years, because they line up year 50 on top of year 1, which is, you can't do. Year is a sanctified year, and year 1 is a work year, a sowing year. So anyway, I think 2029 is a very interesting year. We're also looking at a video about 2030 being the year that the Messiah returns. Again, I believe it's going to be 2029, and even announced in 2028 at Yom Kippur. That's the expectation that I have in my heart. And there are others.
No.
Oh, 1 second, Terry. Let me just finish one more thought.
Yeah,
then you can go.
sorry.
There are others who have studied when the Jubilee is, and they're coming in at 2027 and 2028, 2029, and maybe even 2030. Yeah. Go ahead, Terry.
I was just going to say, I'm here. We're just doing this table on Apophis.
Yeah.
On that day. I mean, that's wild, isn't it?
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, just know the time is near. The season is near. It's very near. We need to be making sure that we are found doing what the Father left us to be doing, or what he's calling us to be doing. Or if the word says today, if you hear his voice, like answer him, answer that door. Who was it? Terry, I think you were telling us a story because you're getting ready. I think it was you, that you're getting ready to do a special work for the Father. And the story is, you have to tell me if it was your story, that somebody was dying, and they asked, they saw a picture on the wall. Was it you, Terry?
I think that was Jan talking about somebody in hospice who saw the picture of the wall of Yahushua knocking. Is that the one?
Yes, that's Janette. Was that your story?
No, that was Jan. Jan, are you still here?
No, she had to go.
Okay. Can anybody tell that story real quick?
I don't recall hearing it.
There was a patient, somebody that she knew was in hospice, but not a believer, and dying of emphysema. They had been taken out to smoke a cigarette, which you do that if you're in hospice. You allow them to do that. And she saw a picture somewhere, couldn't have been outside, maybe inside, but it was a picture of Yahushua.
Yeah, it was
on a wall. It was on a wall, and Yahushua was knocking at the door, and he wasn't a believer, and she was trying to share with him about how he's knocking at the door and how, that, about being saved and believing. And I think correct me, guys, I'm just kind of going by the seat of my pants here. I think she left him and he was he wasn't committed to that. And then he died that night. And the nurses, she went in and asked, where's the picture of Yeshua knocking on the door? And they said there never was a picture there. There was never a picture there. So
But they could both see it. They could both see it.
They both saw the picture, and he died that night. So that's cool, isn't it? So she was part of that. So you never know when you're part of something like that.
That's beautiful. Maybe he accepted him. Maybe she doesn't really know.
Yes, I absolutely believe he had an appointment with Yahushua at that moment. And got to be a part of that.
Supernatural chances right at the end. There you go.
Yeah. And they both saw the vision. They both saw the painting, believed it was a painting on the wall. You could imagine the man being like, oh, gosh, where did that picture even come from? Like, when did it get here? Right.
That
and
is so precious.
I'm laying
precious story.
Yeah.
He opened the door. He went through the door. Literally, he went through the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that was part of, that was absolutely part of what was happening there, is that he was accepting Yahushua after a whole life without him, that Yahushua had just had a heart for him to save him right there at the end. And I don't know, maybe Yahuwah shows up for everybody there and they get that last chance. You get that last chance. If they've said no every other time, maybe Yahushua shows up that last chance and just says, I'm here. I'm here. Are you still going to stand hard-hearted, or are you going to turn and run into my arms at this point?
Beautiful
Absolutely.
thought. I hope he does.
Yeah. I mean, we can't count on it, because the word says, while that's just a cute story, the word says today, if you hear him, today you hear him, do not turn his voice away, but you open the door to him and you start living for him. It's about him. It's not about any of us.
No.
All right, y'all. We've already lost Janette because she's on Jamaica time, and she had a beautiful presentation. Does anybody have anything they want to say before we close? All right. Well,
a few more in the live chat. Just lovely to see just a bunch of people coming on in. You'll have to watch the replay now. Sorry. Start.
Yeah. Totally okay. Just watch the. We'll just all pretend it's just live coming out the door. No worries.
And I put in the chat again. Look, if you want to come and join in on these Zoom sessions that we do, we do at least 2 a week, sometimes more, and we're talking over on Discord all week about current affairs and our Bible codes and the scripture studies and the calendar and all sorts of things. So just email us at alightuntothegentiles@gmail.com, and with an expression of interest, then we'll get back to you. And
absolutely. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Sherry. Leah. We're glad y'all are here. And
Shalom, everybody. Love you guys.
Shalom, everybody. Have a great week.
Love
and
you all.
Love y'all. Shalom.
I'm going to go kayaking.
She's going kayaking, right? And I have to recall to go over here and say final shalom from YouTube. Yahuwah Barak, y'all. Shalom. All right. So that is done.